Hey, my friend, it's Randy, your host of Billy Wins Live, special edition day. I literally walked in my office about 13 minutes ago, just in time to get a Diet Coke and get going. What a hashtag Road Warrior week this has been. Kirsten, you made it first. Good job. Uh, been a great week out running the roads, doing the old school Road Warrior stuff, and now back doing the little bit of the hybrid Road Warrior stuff. So, going to have a fun show a two for this week. We got a great one tomorrow that we'll talk about towards the end of the show. But right now, we brought a good friend of mine and an industry pro, Gary Reichert from Shield Wall Media. He's a CEO and publisher. Most of the magazines that we read in this industry, Gary produces, and also he's a producer, owner, and I think that's the right term. I'm going to use it until he corrects me in about 30 seconds. With the construction pole roll forming show coming up, so we're going to have a good talk about the industry. We're going to talk about his magazines and what's going on there, and we're going to finish up with information on the show. So don't go away. We're going to be right back. Gary's anxious to go. Boom! There he is. How you doing, Gary?
Cow.
Look at this. It's just almost unbelievable.
Yeah, pretty much completely unbelievable. Both of us get talking. I'm not sure I'd believe it either.
I don't believe it either. That's okay. That's okay. Two quick things out of the way. Phil, thank you for jumping on, my friend. And Zach, Biggie, way to be here. Love it. Love it, guys. Hey, so Gary, we were together, a few months ago, and was that around? That was a little before the last Roll Former show, if I'm not mistaken. Was that right, maybe?
That would have been more than a few months. The last roll forming show was June 2021.
Yeah, so maybe we did
in
it
Cincinnati,
after that.
So it's been a while. Yeah, maybe at the Frame Building Expo.
That might have been it. But anyway, we're back together, and I appreciate you taking some time to jump on and talk. For anybody that didn't catch you the last time, give us the who in the world is Gary Reichert?
Nobody of any consequence.
Okay, there we go. Done. Next.
But we've got a nice little company. We right now 6 magazines, launching the 7th one. We publish Rural Builder, Frame Building News, Metal Roofing, Roll Forming, Garage Shed and Carport Builder, and a magazine that we launched about a year ago just about roofing elements. And we are in the process of relaunching an old Rural Builder brand. About 12 years ago, Rural Builder had a section called Metal Builder, and we're making that a standalone magazine, and that'll be number 7 for us. Then we'll have Frame Building News to handle the wood side of things. We'll have Metal Builder to handle the metal side of things. And then gradually we're going to transition Rural Builder back more toward the agricultural side of things.
Gotcha. So you aren't just powerlifting. You're doing some other things too.
Yeah, no, last thing I did was World Deadlift Championships in November in Portugal, which was a lot of fun. Portugal's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I'll bet. So I don't think a lot of folks know that you're a power lifter. That's pretty impressive stuff.
It used to be kind of winding down now. It's getting a little bit too old and a little bit too much mileage. It just kind of isn't what it is. And running a company takes a little bit of time.
It does. So this is a question we never talked about. So you may not even have an answer to this, but it just popped in my goofy little head. How many pounds, how many tons do you think you've lifted in your career as a power lifter?
Gosh, I have one time I have no idea how much weight. It would be, just goofy. Yeah. But one time I got really bored. Whenever I get bored, I play with numbers. And I figured, I've been competing since 1978, I think it was 1978, 1979. So a long freaking time. Yep. And at one point I actually got bored enough to figure out, based on roughly 8 hours a week in a gym, how many years I spent literally in a gym from the time that I was 18. And it was goofy. It was something like 5 years or something. Just stupid.
So you legitimately could claim the title of a gym rat. Am I not right? Am I wrong? I would say that's a pretty
Yeah, I guess.
clean.
I mean, I prefer meathead. It's a little more
that
derogatory.
that works too. Meathead works too. Well, awesome. So and you're printing or just starting to print one of your magazines in a Spanish version too. Is that
Well,
correct?
we've got digital versions in Spanish,
Okay.
and we actually are converting ads into Spanish for Roll Forming Magazine and Garage and Shed and Carport Builder,
Okay.
because a large portion of the light gauge metal buildings and carports in and a lot in the southeast, but southwest and Texas area too, are done by people that English isn't necessarily their first language. So I was
Gotcha.
just thought, if since it just makes sense to recognize any constituent group that's that large a
Hmm.
portion of the industry.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. So, and I think you've got your third, if I'm not mistaken, book just coming out or just releasing. Tell us about your book series again. I know we talked about it last time. We talked about it on the show
Sure.
floor at NFBA or someplace where we did a live from. But tell us a
Yep.
little bit about the books you're doing.
Well, we're doing a series called Pro Tips On, and Pro Tips On are consumer oriented books. So it's not everything else we do is designed to be read by builders. This is designed to be read by the end users. And it's basically almost a for dummies kind of series for people that are buying expensive construction projects. One of them, the first book was Pro Tips on Your Metal Roof. The second book was Pro Tips on Your Carport. And then the book that is actually uploading to be printed tomorrow, the last sections, is Pro Tips on Your Post Frame Home.
Okay.
And the rationale behind it is if somebody's going to spend $20,000 on a metal roof or $200,000 on a custom post frame home, that it's probably worth spending $29.95 to know what questions you ought to
Yeah.
ask
Right.
so that you can not shoot yourself in the foot.
Right. Right.
The other side of it is part of being a good salesperson is controlling the sales process and knowing what questions people are going to ask. By having this as a resource, it also allows builders, metal roofers, or people that are selling carports to have a handle on the information that the people have so that they know that it's actually qualified information and it's provided by a third party source that isn't actually trying to sell them something. So it'll have a little bit of credibility, which hopefully increasing the people's knowledge base will allow you to upsell them into a higher quality product.
There you go. There you go. And it's I think if I remember correctly, also you have the ability for dealers,
Yep.
distributors to kind of personalize the book a little bit, co-branded, I guess would be the term I
Sure.
want to use.
We call it an affiliate program.
Okay.
And essentially what it is there's one spot that by the forward that's roughly 500 words that can be swapped out. And then there are pictures throughout and including one on the cover that can be swapped out for that specific contractor's own work. So you could conceivably have a metal roofer or a post frame contractor building a home that has their smiling face driving nails or putting in screws on the cover of the magazine. So it's something where you can use it as high end handout literature. So it increases your credibility because having your smiling face on the front of a professionally produced and published book means hopefully that you are somebody.
Right, right. That would absolutely add some credibility to that. I think Randy Floyd, he just said great idea. I assume I'm guessing Randy, you're referring to the Spanish version of the directory. In the or the ads and the magazines. I'm assuming that's what he meant. But then that is a good idea. And I love the book. If anybody that hasn't seen the pro tips on, I've had a couple of them in my hands at the NFBA show. I think is where we did that last year, and first class. I mean, first class publication as we'd all expect from what you guys do. But
Well, and they're available hard copy and Kindle versions on Amazon as well.
oh, okay, okay. Um, well, great. So correct. So yeah. So hey, you got a thumbs up for Randy Floyd. You know
Holy
Randy.
cow.
I know you know Randy because you guys. I think we're just
Yep.
talking because
Know
I
Randy
know
really well.
I know everything. So and as Phil Gilks, a buddy of mine, says up there, if Randy can't get it, you don't really need it. I like that. Um, I sometimes like to jokingly say, if I don't know you, you don't need to be known because I've only been around this industry for I use 4+ decades, Gary, because it's accurate, but it's
Sure.
only because if I really stretched it out to the times that I was picking up screws and hauling 2x4s around a job site, I could claim 50. But man, that sounds like a long time.
No,
You,
I that goes back to the lifting. I don't tell people most of that anymore because it
yeah,
ends up just being too darn long, and I feel old.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, somebody said, "Man, you seem to know everybody at these shows." And I says, "That's just not because I'm anything important. It's just because I've been around since before pole barns even existed, just about. So, it's
Yep.
it's it's easy to know everybody after this many years. So what do you let's do a quick because you're in a unique position publishing all these magazines. Um, what's the state of the industry right now? What are you seeing? I just got off the road and I was talking to Randy just a few minutes ago on the phone and oh yeah, thank you, Shannon. A long time equals experience. Love it. Thank you. I love that. Love that. I'm going to use that one. Uh, but we were talking, I just got off the road for 5 days of some customer visits and uh, we went through a little bit of a lull here maybe a month ago, but it seemed not bad right now. What are you seeing? What are you predicting? What's the crystal ball of Gary Reichert?
Well, hindsight's a lot better than forward. So
Mm-hmm.
we actually just finished. We've got state of the industry articles coming out in the upcoming issues of most of the magazines. And I think the one for metal roofing actually just mailed. I'd have to check. But what we did is we surveyed our readers and asking people because I had a gentleman that is in a roofing related company say that they were slowing down. And at the time, I hadn't heard that from anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the anecdotal information that I had was anybody that's got product is sending it out the door just about as fast as they can. And I spend a lot more time talking to manufacturers than I do actual builders. So being a numbers guy, the first thing that I thought of was, is this something coming up that's a month down the road that because not talking directly to the builders, am I wrong? So we put together a survey and we sent it out. And the responses that we got back were that, and this is going off the top of my head, I'd have to check the notes to get the exact numbers. They are in the magazines. So whenever the magazines do upload online, if you want to see the actual numbers, they're there. But roughly two-thirds of the respondents to the survey were either moderately or significantly up over what they did last year. So most of the people were up.
Wow.
And the profit margins actually the responses were they were about the same because material costs and labor cost increases kind of ate into the margins.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual dollar value and the number of units was up a little bit, not as much as the dollar value.
Right. Which would be
But
expected with all the increases, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so that was interesting because the people that I found that are not up are typically not up in either really unusual atypical niches or because of supply chain issues. There
Mm-hmm.
have been a couple of people that have had raw material where the lead time for the raw material has gone from roughly 60 days up to, in some cases, 6 months. So not being able to make stuff for 4 months is going to put a dent in your sales.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. Y- Yeah, so and from what you get with talking to other manufacturers, because as an independent rep agency, I rep several.
Sure.
Pretty blessed to be with some really big names in the industry, so that's been a real blessing for me for a lot of time. But so I can only speak from my little corner of the world. But does it seem like the supply chain issues still exist, but and they are getting better, right, in a lot of
Yep.
cases.
Yep.
But how much of that I wonder sometimes is we as manufacturers, that's where I come from, and our customers have just got better at managing that. Because right when this whole thing started, we all none of first place we had no indication really. It came out of the blue, right?
Sure.
And then we had no experience with managing anything. I don't think of that severe, right?
Right.
and that quickly. And I think it took quite a while, but I feel like I know from my manufacturer standpoint, and I feel like even with the customers, we've all learned to just manage it better. So what do you think? How much of it is the supply chain just getting better, which I think it is, and how much is it that we're all just managing it with each other better? What do you think on that?
Uh, I mean, I think managing stuff is definitely better because I mean, I used to be related to manufacturing probably 25 years ago, and if you just look at the like manufacturing methods and things like Kaizen and whatnot, it's gotten so much more efficient over the years that everybody's gone to just in time, where it used to be everybody would be inventorying as much as they could to try to cover things. But I think the supply chain issues were unanticipated things because the most of the supply chain issues that I know about that I have any real information on weren't the materials as much as it was, say, the inavailability of containers.
Right.
So it's something where I mean I get I'm getting hit with stuff where they're dropping paperweights, like they're changing the number of SKUs on papers so that instead of having 32, 34, 38, and 40-pound paper, they're dropping down to 32 and 38. And we
Okay.
typically print it on 34. And the manufacturers are trying to reduce the number of SKUs so that they can be more efficient. And it's make unanticipated consequences are just making things a little bit interesting.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of what happened to us too, in that it wasn't actually so much the our involvement in the actual materials or the manufacturing process as the peripheral things that we just kind of take for granted and count on, going, oh crap, that didn't work.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Well, and that fits right along with what I'm seeing and what I've sort of saw over the last, especially the last year and a half. Once we got out of the massive crisis mode that we were
Mhm.
all thrown in for a while, uh, everybody, and I think it's uh, one thing a lot of our customers learned, I think, is that, and I suppose we learned on the manufacturing side too. I'm not in procurement or anything, but boy, one of the big takes I think for everybody is relationships, right? And some
Oh,
loyalty,
definitely.
right? If we haven't learned anything, and we're always on two sides of that with as a sales guy, right? I want my loyal customers to always remain loyal, right? But you want other customers not be so loyal because you want to be able to sell them, right? So I mean,
Sure.
it's a double-edged sword. But the point is, the people that got product were the ones that stayed loyal to people. The people without cherry picking for the last 5 years, yeah, they probably just didn't get products. If you just call up a manufacturer and said, "Yeah, I haven't even wanted to talk to you for 5 years, but right now I'm in trouble," it's like, yeah, you're
Yeah, good
still in
luck with
trouble.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're still in trouble because so I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned out of this thing as we seem to be climbing out of the COVID part of things anyway.
Sure.
So and I think that's important, right? To learn from what we went through and hopefully we're better. And I think we probably are.
Well, and I'd second what you said about relationships because it's all about sharing information because guaranteed if I'm having a problem or you're having a problem, we're not the only two people in the world that are having the problem.
Yep.
And if you've got, even if it's somebody that's a competitor, if you've got a good relationship with them, it's possible to share information.
Hmm.
But if you're looking to undercut or snake somebody,
Right.
good luck with that.
Right. Yep. Yep. I think it's made it. You're right. It's made us all better. So well, good. So overall, I'm taking from what your surveys have and the polls and the survey, not your polls, but survey. Uh, we we may just kind of sneak right on through the rest of this year. Not too bad.
That we did ask a couple of questions about the future and what people anticipated for the remainder of the year, and then what they were thinking longer term.
Hmm.
And about half of the people were convinced that we would finish up the year and be relatively strong, at least equal to what we were last year, which whenever you consider last year as a record
Right.
for most people is not an entirely bad thing.
Right.
Then the other half were a little bit more on the fence and a little bit more apprehensive about life in general.
Hmm.
I mean, there's just so many unknowns between interest rates and consumer confidence levels and international stuff that's going on and the price of gas and oil and whatnot
Right.
that there was just enough uncertainty that creates hesitancy. And then a little bit farther out, people are a little bit less optimistic, but a lot can happen between now and then.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
And
So
and just since we're talking about the future and doom and gloom, I need to throw in a Zig Ziglar quote for you
let's do it. I love
because
Zig.
one of my favorite Ziglar quotes is we had him, and this is paraphrased because I'm not nearly as smart as he was, but he said we had a meeting and everybody was mentioning the recession that was upcoming, and we decided not to participate.
Right. That's a good one. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. There's certain things you can't control, right? But
Yep.
you could control your own views, your own emotions, your own uh, concepts of what you're going to do, right? And
Yep.
and that's a lot of it. We got Phil Gilks on there. He's a good friend of Wes and I's in a mastermind group of ours, and he says he's a coach and a trainer, and he says that's exactly what he teaches is that relationship selling and building
Sure.
relationships. It's and never been more important. So let's move ahead to something that's not that far away all of a sudden. Roll former. This number 3 or 4? Three,
This will
right?
be number three. Yep.
Yep.
The third
So
construction roll forming show.
yeah. So rather than I saying anything, because I know nothing other than what I know or think I know, and since we've got the horse himself here, let's get it from the horse's mouth. Tell us about the what is it? Why should everybody go? When is it? Where is it?
Well,
How do
this
you
will be a
sign up?
different sales pitch because everybody shouldn't go because we're a little bit different, and that's what makes us special.
There you go.
It's October 26th and 27th at Ernest Memorial Convention Center in New Orleans. And before anybody panics, the reason that there is a bunch of reasons that it's in New Orleans because there have been a number of people from the Midwest that said it's a little bit out of their region and they're not sure about their area. And there's two things, well, three things. One of them is geographically, it's located really well because we could draw the metal roofing people from Florida and the metal building people from Texas, which are both huge parts of it. But then one of the objections was a lot of the people in our little corner of the world do a lot of business with Plain Communities folks.
Hmm.
And I researched that and talked to some people in the Plain Communities before we moved it down there. And they actually are looking at it as a vacation opportunity because and this will be incorrect because I don't know if allowed is the right
Yeah.
word,
Right.
but they only travel for business purposes. And by having a trade show related to their business down there, they can actually see New Orleans and the antebellum South in an acceptable way.
Gotcha. Yep.
So it should actually be a pretty good draw for the Plain Communities folks if that's part of your business.
Yep. Yep. And that
Um,
is a big part of what we do in this industry. So
yeah, it is. It is, and it's in a lot of ways it's parallel to the Spanish speaking people, and we're going to try to have some courses at the Road Forming Show in Spanish as well. But the reason that we're different is if you look at a roll former or a brake or a piece of metal forming equipment, you're looking at something that typically is give or take $150,000 or more, depending on what you're looking at. And what that does is that weeds out the small contractors. We specifically are not a contractor show.
right.
And the reason that that matters is because most manufacturers are not set up to sell. Like you mentioned Randy earlier and ST Fastening.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, them or Mays Nails or Leland isn't set up to sell a 20-pound box of screws.
Right.
They're set up to sell in a pallet load, a container load, or a truckload. Somebody that can afford a capital investment of 150, 250, 500,000 or $2 million if they're looking at a full carport line isn't going to be buying a 20-pound box of fasteners.
Right. Right.
So you actually have customers that are able to buy from manufacturers the way that manufacturers sell. And that works out really well for both sides of the equation, because if you're at a contractor based show, if you're in a position that you can actually afford to purchase that way, chances are the people in the booth spaces aren't going to have the time to spend with you to actually get anywhere. It's going to be a, here's a card, here's my number, call me after the show.
Right.
At the roll forming show, because the audience is a little bit more qualified, everybody gets more time to spend with each other. The other side of it is the educational programming is all about metal forming and metal forming within the industry. So the education is for people that do brakes, metal forming, panels, tubing, the manufacturing dealer distributor side of things. So it brings them in, and then the exhibit floor works out really well for both sides.
Yeah. It's a great show. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I've enjoyed the first two, and since you're going to have some shows in Spanish, I may have to get my Babbel app back up and learn a word or two. Because I know, like,
Well, you can translate to me, because other than like ordering in a Mexican restaurant, I'm done.
yeah, I'm real good at just figuring out something and pointing to say, I want that one right there. Whatever
Yeah.
that is, I'll take it and hope I like it. So, hey, thanks for jumping on, Ted. Appreciate it. Good to see you too. Well, I don't see you, but I know you're there, so it's good. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. So, how do people that's in the industry that wants to attend the show, if they don't already know or how to or what to, they go to constructionrollformershow.com and sign
Yep.
up.
There'll be links there to sign up. There's links there to contact me if you're looking at exhibiting. There's a floor plan. The actual timing of the schedules, including your seminars, isn't actually set in stone yet, but we do have a list of the classes. And if you want to learn how to sell, I know somebody that's going to be doing presentations on how to sell there. So
You do?
yeah, you.
Oh, that's right.
but
Wow.
but
Pressure's on.
there you go.
What do we get? What do I get? 30 minutes? What do I do in after the first minute when I got everything? That's it. That's all I got. Then what do we do?
Question and answers, and you can tell stories.
There you go. Well, good. No, I'm looking forward to that. Kirsten, thank you for being here. So Kirsten's always say, I think we need a banner for the number one fan. I think she just might win. So anyway, well, thank you, Kirsten. Look, I'm gonna have to pay her. I'm gonna have to send her a pop or something. I can see that. But anyway, so as we kind of wrap up, because I appreciate your time on a Thursday here. Parting words outside of buy every magazine you have and buy your books and show up at the show. But outside of that, parting words from Gary Reichert.
Well, one little warning, if I may, is that
Yes.
we are changing something a little bit.
Okay.
We're changing the way that we do our directories. We used to have a buyer's guide for each one of our major magazines. Rural Builder, Metal Roofing, Frame Building News had a post frame directory, and then Roll Forming had a roll forming directory. Instead of having them all separate, we're consolidating them into one publication, and it's a standalone that will go to all the subscribers of our four primary magazines. So it'll print a little over 100,000 copies, and it will be a standalone directory, phone book, whatever you'd like to call it. So if you did participate or were looking for the standard buyer's guides, for example, in the October issue of Rural Builder, which would usually be the buyer's guide, it's not going to be there.
Okay.
But there will be a standalone book with it that will have all of the information in it.
That's awesome. I think that's a great idea because there's a lot you can really cross-reference, right? Because there's a lot
Sure.
of crossover or cross-pollination, if we will.
No,
So I think that's
it is, and that synergy between our magazines is one of the reasons that we're successful.
Yep, exactly. Awesome. Thank you, Coach Phil. Great conversation. Well, he calls us Jim. I don't know who he's talking to. He must be on another show. Anyway, so Gary, thank you. I appreciate you being on, and I look forward to being at the show, talking at the show, seeing everybody, and I suppose you and I will probably get together for a live or two from the show because that's what we do, right?
That works for me. I'm at your
Awesome.
anytime you're bored and you need somebody to talk to, just give me a yell.
I'll do it. All right, my friend. Appreciate you being on.
Thanks, Randy.
All right. Cheers, buddy. All right, Gary Reichert. He's a true pro in the industry. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Get a little update on the industry, which really sounded certainly not bad and maybe even pretty good. So, and you'll love the show if you're in the roll forming industry. It's a great show as Gary talked about. So look forward to seeing anybody that happens to wander that way. Make sure you look me up and we'll chat a little bit. So this is a twofer week, and we had a little switch up. It's funny. I had a Daryl Amy was going to be on, and he had something that popped up, so we'd advertised it, and then he had something that popped up. But we're going to bring some joy to the world tomorrow. As a segue, I had to use. I know Wes is shaking his head, but had to bring a little joy to the world. Jackie Joy is going to be on uh, tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and we're going to do Daryl again here in a few weeks. So we'll reschedule him. But Jackie also works with the Selling from the Heart group with Larry Levine, who's been on the show, and Bill McCormick, who's been on the show. And I had an opportunity to talk with Jackie yesterday for about 30, 40 minutes riding down the highway, and an impressive lady, a great salesperson, and she's all about authentic selling and sales growth, and you're going to really enjoy that conversation. So come back for that tomorrow, and then next week we've got kind of staying in the realm of the sales world. We got Matt Davis. Matt is from the industry in general, and he also is a sales pro himself, and he's also co-host with a friend of the show and a friend of mine personally, Mason Bouchette, who's has been on a couple times on Building Wins Live. But they have a podcast that's very, very good, the Crush It team. It's excellent podcast. I really enjoy watching those guys. So if you get a chance to check them out, definitely do that. But so that'll be next week with Matt, and Kirsten says she loves that book. Yes, indeed, it's a great book. I highly recommend that. So, anyways, so tomorrow we're gonna have Jackie Joy, 3 o'clock. Don't miss it. Thanks for jumping on, and remember, you know what I'm gonna say. Make today your best day ever. Until tomorrow. Cheers, my friends.